We can't just sit by and not be racist. It's time for us to be anti-racist.
Then I became a mother and everything changed for me.
It's a journey that I don't believe will ever end.
You are the heart of that change.
We are in a position where we can create bigger talent pools, more diverse talent pools.
The barriers are people are frightened of things they don't know.
One of the things that I'm sure we've all heard quite a lot is the best person should get the job. I don't know what your both of your thoughts are on that.
I think that the best person needs to know about the job.
Please stop all this woke agenda.
It's political correctness gone mad.
Sorry, Thought Police.
You're such a snowflake.
Surely all lives matter.
Did those sound familiar? Here on You Can't Say Anything Anymore, we unpack the nuances of these comments and bring sidelined lived experiences to the forefront. Brought to you by Diversifying Group.
Hi everyone, welcome to this month's podcast. This is our first podcast that we're recording live in the studio this year. Hooray! Woo! Yeah! We're very excited to be here because we've got a really special episode. But before we start, my name is Naomi. I'm the host of You Can't Say Anything Anymore. My pronouns are she, they. And I am here today with my very special colleague, Tobi. And Tobi, would you like to tell us what we are doing today?
So we are going to be speaking about our new job platform, which is Diversifying Agencies, that has been around since last year, September. And it's just try and get some information out to the world and to all of our candidates and all of our network to talk about diversifying agencies. So our topic is the why and how on DE&I in the recruitment industry. So just a brief background and context. Diversifying Agencies is a purpose-led careers platform for people to find jobs through inclusive recruitment agencies and for agencies to connect with a diverse community. So we've been working on this quite a lot and we just really want to shout about it, want to talk about it, and we just really want people to get on the bandwagon with recruitment agencies and why they should be used. So we've got two special guests here with us today to talk about it. Please introduce yourselves.
Thank you. So my name is Paul McGuinness. I'm the Associate Director for Talent Development and DE&I with an organisation called Staffing 360 Solutions. Staffing 360 Solutions is an international recruitment business. We've got 4 recruitment brands here in the UK and 4 out in the United States as well, covering technology, engineering, manufacturing, finance, business support, legal. And I have got a 20-year career in recruitment and counting. I know I like to joke that I started fresh from school, but it's not entirely true. But yeah, that's my role within the organisation. So I'm really honoured to be part of this conversation today with everybody here.
Thank you.
I'm Ella Razzell. My pronouns are she, her. I am the compliance manager and ED&I champion for Carrington West, which is a recruitment company in the south coast of England. We specialise in town planning, highways, rail, across the board in the UK. My experience is about 10 years, only 10 years in the in the recruitment industry. I'm very glad we're having the conversation also. I think it's so important and it's such a hot topic.
Yeah.
So I think what you're doing is a great thing.
Great. Thank you so much for both explaining. And sorry, I forgot my pronouns. They are she, her.
As did I. Mine are he, him.
Great. So our first question on the deck is, can you tell us more about your DEI journey and how did you become an advocate for inclusion and what are you doing within your organisations to drive diversity? So Paul, do you want to go first?
Sure. So my journey within DE&I, I'm of mixed ethnicity, so I guess my journey started at birth in some regards. Yeah. I've worked through some, 2 decades, so I've seen quite a transformation in that space from the time that I entered industry to now. I think that, in my role as a recruiter before my current role, I helped clients look at gender equality gaps in terms of pay. I recruited heavily into the engineering sector, and for quite some time now there's been a spotlight on women in tech, women in engineering. So we would try to support by providing clients with female candidates as part of recruitment processes. But the real catalyst for change and the most explosive change that we've seen and the speeding up, I think, of change really began in 2020 with the murder of George Floyd.
Yeah.
So our organisation during that period, everybody was locked up at home and we had this event and it impacted the workforce.
Yeah, it did.
And I think that's the same for many organisations. And our chairman, Brendan Flood, made a really bold move, I think, personally, in saying, look, you know, we're not a racist organisation, but we can't just sit by and not be racist.
Yeah.
It's time for us to be anti-racist. So he, along with Alicia Barker, our COO, signed up to the CEO Action Pledge out in the United States, which is a pledge of corporate execs that are pledged to make change in their organisations. And that saw the creation really of DE&I as a function within our business. It started with the creation of a DEI task force. And really for our first year, it was all about education and having very challenging, candid conversations.
Which is important,
Which is massively important.
Yeah.
We read a book as a task force called Cast by Isabel Wilkerson. I don't know if anybody's has read that book. It's hard. It's a hard read. It's a very hard read.
Is there any kind of summary you could just give us briefly?
It essentially looks at, you know, the role of systemic racism through generations in different countries through the years. And there's a lot in there to digest and unpack. I recommend reading it, but I will warn you, it's a tough read.
I think the ones that hit the hardest are the toughest reads.
Yeah.
This is people's truths. Like,
absolutely.
people go through.
Yeah, it really was. And so it was hard because you would read a chapter and then you'd get angry.
Yeah.
And then you'd be, I don't want to read this anymore. And then you'd pick it up again. So that was our first year and that was the journey. My role came about as really it's about helping to facilitate action. So Alicia Barker, our COO, is our officer for DE&I. But my role is really about gluing together the workforce through initiatives. So we've got the DE&I task force.
Yes.
We have now mandatory training for all employees that come into the organisation and existing employees around DE&I. We have got diversity pillars, which we launched last year alongside a diversity and inclusion code of conduct, which really sets the narrative of what the organisation sets out to achieve. Right? So it really gives a clear framework of what we're about culturally as an organisation. And then the pillars really give people a way of coming together and finding common ground.
Yeah.
And, you know, we all the way down to things like we have an event called Taste the Culture, which selfishly, as I'll tell anyone, I love food. So,
nice.
But, you know, I genuinely believe that food is a way to share our culture, our heritage.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, my wife is white, but she's embraced my West Indian culture. So if the roles were reversed, I'd like to think that she might bring in some West Indian dishes, right? And say, well, look, you know, this is what my family, my extended family, this is their culture, which in turn is mine.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's really helped us to understand more about one another culturally, as well as our wider families. Which really drives to the heart of inclusion. So you're right, it is a journey. And it's a journey that I don't believe will ever end.
Oh no.
It won't ever end.
It's not going to.
Solve the world by food. It'd be great.
It'd
be so good.
Yeah, exactly that.
Nice.
We're all fed. Everyone's happy. But
Great food. It'd be great.
you know, we still have tough conversations. So they have understanding conversations, and they're company wide.
That's good.
generally by Zoom,
Right.
but where we'll, tackle tough topics. So we had one last year, which we had a really kind guy that came on and shared his experiences of the hiring process as a black man, to say, like, this is what it feels like for me.
Yeah.
We had a really tough conversation around mass shootings out in the US, which was a really emotional conversation. And we continue to have those kinds of conversations as events arise. But it's an ongoing journey. I think we've made some good changes and we've made some good progress. And we're constantly looking to try and do more.
No, I love that. Thank you so much for explaining that. It's very detailed.
Yeah, love it.
You're doing a lot, and I hope you continue to. Like you said, it's never gonna end. And big things definitely are going on in your company, so it sounds great. So, Ella, would you like? Do you want me to repeat the question?
Yes, if you could.
Sorry.
No worries.
Just
So, can you tell us about your DEI journey and how did you become an advocate for inclusion, and what are you doing in your company to drive all of that?
Thank you. So when I first went into recruitment about 10 years ago, it was quite a male-orientated environment, lots of salesy men. And then I became a mother and everything changed for me. I needed more flexibility and I could see how women were maybe underrepresented in the industry. And for the industries we recruit for, which is similarly the engineering, highway sector. So I really wanted to advocate within our company for just better best practices, better ways of seeing how we can help the workforces. So in our company, I'm the DE&I champion. So we work with clients and we help them with their DE&I strategies. We also had a food day. We did have.
I feel like food just
do you know, it was definitely one of
Yeah.
our most sort of successful initiatives by far. There's a lot of people whose cultures we didn't realise. We didn't realise we had a gentleman who brought in some gorgeous Lebanese food and he just lit up speaking about his culture and his family, and it was beautiful. And it definitely was a great initiative, that one. We're also on the journey with investors in diversity. So they will come into our company and speak to our company about belonging. Do people really feel like they belong there? That's an anonymous survey. So it'd be really good to get feedback that way. But yeah, we're obviously still on the journey as well and doing what we can.
I love that.
I love that.
And I like how we've got like different, both of you, you're coming from more of a black man in an industry and you're coming from a women's side, and it's really good to see the differences and what we're doing with diversity and inclusion. So I'm very intrigued to see your two different points of things. But over to you, Naomi.
Well, I'm just curious. I mean, I'm trying to think now what I'd bring for this food day. It sounds so interesting. And I love the idea that it's very human focused, it's very, and it's such an easy point of conversation, isn't it? You can just bring something, what's that? And it's not even, we don't even have to start with the sort of so-called hard stuff, it's sort of, sort of micro points about different cultures or different mindsets or different philosophies. It's just, this tastes nice or this looks good. So I think that's very cool. And it's very interesting that both of you had that in your organisation.
It worked.
We'll have to
Everyone
arrange
really
an
got
inter-company food day.
I love
And people did actually, like my husband is part Greek, so I brought Greek food. I'm not Greek, but I would, what can I cook?
What did you bring?
I took some baklava, took some gyros in, we had some Greek food.
Amazing.
Love that.
I like that.
But that part on belonging that you just mentioned, like that is part of your identity.
And my children.
Exactly
It's
that.
part of your family, yeah.
So I think that's brilliant. Brilliant.
Yeah, that's so cool.
It's a good day.
I
Everyone's
love
grateful.
that. Wow. I would love to sit here and talk about food all day. I think about all the food that I'd bring, or probably try to bring, and then probably forget on the day. And, rush in the thing. Oh gosh. Anyways, but so if I want to talk about a bit, sort of about why would you say that there was a big need for D&I in the kind of recruitment agent industry? Because I guess I'm sure we've all heard these before. Why do you need that in the recruitment? Or isn't that a bit? Why would you need that? Surely it should already be like that. I'm sure we've all heard very similar phrases like those. My layperson voice. I don't know what person that was, but I'd love to sort of get a kind of perspective from both of you about that, really.
So I think when you look at, what does the industry do? What does recruitment do? So, I believe that the recruitment industry is a big facilitator of change, right? So whether that be in helping organisations change their performance outcomes by hiring talent in that can help drive performance, whether that allows an organisation to diversify its offering in terms of what it gives to clients by bringing in completely new talent that is going to deliver a new product. Recruitment agencies play a key role in helping to shape organisations.
Yes, big time.
The reason that DE&I is important is that the talent pool that we are swimming in or fishing in has been shrinking for the last at least 20 years, as I was saying earlier.
Yeah.
So, the war for talent, you can probably Google the war for talent and you'll see articles going back to at least the early 2000s. Now, what does that mean in terms of the UK? Well, when you look at the demographics of the UK, I think the most recent ONS census came out, right? So 18%-ish of the UK comes from an ethnic minority group. Which when you hear that, you go, okay, well, that's not a great deal. Well, that's still, I think, around 11 million people. 22% of the UK is, has some form of disability.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
When you look at cities like London, for example, 46% or so of London is from a minority ethnic group.
Yeah.
Birmingham, about 43%.
Yeah.
Manchester, 33%.
Yeah.
And these are the hubs of the industries that we recruit in. So understanding that gives you a very clear picture just in one space of DE&I, because it's not just about ethnicity, but just in that one space, you can see that if we're only looking in the same places that we've ever looked, for the same people that we ever look for, the net, it's shrinking and shrinking and shrinking. And there are some phenomenal talents and skills available in those spaces that might not know about the industries that we recruit into. So we've experienced that as an organisation, because as you said, most recruitment firms are largely led by men and are largely populated by males. But also there's a propensity for lots of recruitment agencies also to be, not very diverse ethnically or in any other underrepresented group. So when you go back to it, and I'll ask you a question.
Okay, I'm ready.
How did you get into recruitment? What drew you to recruitment?
It wasn't recruitment. It wasn't like, I want to be putting people into jobs. And it was the money.
Yeah. And like for me, I didn't know about recruitment until I was in recruitment.
It's hidden
Right?
industry, isn't it? It's one of you never think, that, I want to go up to be a recruiter.
No, exactly.
And so, there's an amazing industry just in recruitment for people, especially if they're in lower social economic backgrounds or if they're coming through, different, on different pathways. The skills and attributes that make a successful recruiter aren't typically learned in a college or a school or a university. So just as our own industry, it's really important because we're missing talent every day. But the role that we can provide to clients is huge because, we can look to build more diverse talent pools for organisations. We're constantly, you might agree, we're constantly looking for ways to source candidates and to find candidates that's innovative, that's not the same as the agency over the road.
And our clients expect us to. They'll ask directly, what are you doing? What innovative ways are you sourcing us candidates?
And so, we are in a position where we can create bigger talent pools, more diverse talent pools, because it's what we're doing constantly for all of our customers. So we play a massive role, and I think that it is something that can and should develop further as we go along.
Yeah, I guess kind of offshoot of that, before we go into your answer, is I guess one of the things that I'm sure we've all heard quite a lot is the best person should get the job. I don't know what your kind of both of your thoughts are on that, really.
I think the best person needs to know about the job in the first place.
Exactly.
Yeah, so the job needs to reach everybody, not just the regular job boards or groups of people. I think it needs to make sure everybody's got the opportunity to see the job.
And I think in my experience is that you need many groups to find the best person. Finding the best person in one group of people doesn't mean they're the best person available in the market space.
Yeah, very true. Very true. Very true. Thanks. But yeah, Ella, would you like to share what your sort of what your thoughts about why D&I and recruitment kind of intersect?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's very important. We are the link in the middle with the clients and ourselves. And like you said, we are out there sourcing the candidates for the roles. I think we just need to lead by example. We need to show the clients best practice, what we're doing is right, and how they can help within their organisations to do the same. So I do work with clients and I'll go in and see what they have to offer. A lot of clients will ask to see a specific kind of candidate or a specific demographic of candidate, and we need to look at why they're missing that currently, what they can do within their organisation to attract that talent. If you say working mothers again, for example, do they have flexibility? What's their maternity pay like?
Right.
Clients can't sort of demand what they'd like to see.
You're right, without putting in the structures that will support.
To accommodate them.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
You gotta get the best person out of that person as well when you accommodate their lifestyle, their structure, and you're open to compromise and you're open to listen. As someone, as a woman as well, if I'm going into an industry and they don't want to compromise, if I have a child, I'm automatically I'm shutting off.
Don't want to work there.
I don't want to work there because you're not trying to accommodate me at all. So it's really, you have to be open nowadays, and I totally agree with what you're saying.
I think that's one of the biggest barriers to talent. My wife is a working mum, and we were talking earlier about kids and being sick, and it's half term next week. Yeah. But it is unfair. It is distinctly unfair that mums have to make a choice over, or parents have to make a choice over career or family.
Definitely. Yeah. I think that showed in the report again that came out. I think there was a very high percentage of women that were dropping out the workforce, late 20s, early 30s, and then they're finding it increasingly hard to get back into the workforce because of childcare costs and employers that are not being accommodating.
Do you feel that something that I've noticed is that you almost have to have a second career once you become a parent? Like certainly for whoever's the primary caregiver, whether that's whichever parent that is, but predominantly mums. Like my wife is kind of going through that journey at the moment.
Interesting.
And it does feel really unfair that the skills that you gain as a parent alongside the skills that you already had just as a professional.
Patience for one.
Yeah.
Love
I feel that's undervalued often.
Yeah, I have a lot of mothers in my team and they work very, very hard. And yeah, I think employers really need to see, like you say, what people have to offer.
Yeah,
due to their circumstances, what they've been through. That everyone has something different.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that I really like that point that you made earlier about the fact that it shouldn't be up to the candidate to think, oh, well, I need this, this, and this, and this. The system should be in place.
Yeah.
It should be, okay, this is the benefits package we offer. These are the procedures for this situation, for adoption, for, same-sex couples, blah, 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 blah. All of these things. It shouldn't be down to that individual candidate to go and research and say, I need, because it's not always accessible to everybody. They might not even know what's out there.
Yeah.
So I thought that was very.
And if a candidate is sort of looking to choose between two clients, they're obviously going to go for the client that caters more for them and is more accommodating for them, which is why we need to educate our clients into being accommodating.
I think that's a great point. It's accessibility is about visibility.
Yes. Yeah.
If I have to, there are some things that we will need individuals to come and say, look, this is my circumstance, what can be done to accommodate? And so being welcoming of accommodations is really important, but being, making it clear that you're really welcoming of accommodations is really important.
Yeah.
There's another book that I'd read about diversity in organisations, and I can't remember the full title and who it was by at the moment, but I'll share it. But essentially it came down to two things. If you wanted to create more diverse and inclusive organisations, it's focusing on people and processes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that speaks to that completely.
Love that. Very cool.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So, what is the role of the recruiters when it comes to D&I, and how can we as an organisation and industry work to move inclusion forward? So this is, I feel like you can say a lot because you're recruiters yourself. What are you doing
What are we doing
to move it?
So the first thing that we've looked at is educating our recruiters and ourselves.
Right.
Okay, so we have annual training which looks at unconscious bias, microaggressions in the workplace, harassment and sexual harassment. And what that does is it allows people to see clearly that there are certain things that you go, that don't feel right.
Yeah.
And it allows people to see that, right, okay, it's okay to stand up and say that doesn't feel right.
Yeah.
What we also look at doing is trying to understand our customers' needs.
Right.
What is the challenge? What's the priority? Recruiters are, and again, you alluded to this earlier. Recruiters aren't biased in a process. Most recruiters, you will always have exceptions to the rule, but we are fundamentally measured on outcomes.
Yes.
All right. So as uncomfortable as it is to talk about that and the fact that we are driven to deliver successful outcomes, it removes any kind of bias. We want to find the best candidate because we want to make a placement.
Right.
So there's a great opportunity for recruiters to support companies through that, because they are genuinely looking for the best candidate for the role based on what our customers say best looks like. My experience is that you need stakeholder engagement.
Right.
Yeah. So in our organisation, our CEO and chairman made a stand. That allowed people like myself, and there are tens of colleagues across both countries that stood up and said, I want to be part of this too.
Right.
Okay. If he hadn't done that, we all might still feel the same way, but we might not have been given the voice or the platform. So it's really important for stakeholders within companies, our clients, to make a stand to say, we want to make a change here. It's also really important for recruitment leaders to do the same, because it will allow the innovation that's required and sometimes those challenging conversations to take place in a safe space. But ultimately the role of a recruiter is about finding talent, and we will work against the prescription of our customers. So if our clients say, look, our big priority this year is to ensure that at least, we get some representation on every role that we hire from an underrepresented group, wherever that may be. How are you sourcing? Like you said, where are you going to market that will at least ensure that our role is seen by somebody that sits in one of those groups? It will drive recruiters will go and find innovative platforms like Diversifying Agencies that will go out and, make real campaigns to try and attract working mums. And it will drive the change.
I see.
So we can play a huge role. Unconscious bias exists whether we like it or not.
It's just there, like it's not nice, obviously, but it does happen in everyone. it's just for you to take that initiative and to take that conscious effort to not do that unconscious bias. Because unfortunately, us humans, we have an opinion on someone straight away as soon as they walk into a room. It happens. You say it to yourself in your head, and it's either, are you going to run with it? Or are you going to be like, no, I haven't even heard this person say hello yet. Right. So let me wait and have a decent conversation with them and see what they're about. Then I can make my judgment about who they are as a person, what can they bring. And then that's how we should be moving forward. Instead, people go off the unconscious bias straight away and totally judge that person on something that they're probably not. And it's not nice. And I feel like I think with recruiters and what the role of the recruiter in D&I, you are the heart of that change. You are the beginning, because you are that point of contact for the candidate and the client. It starts with you lot. Your organisation, your company can give you as much training as they want. But until you start implementing that from the beginning, there's not going to be a change. And it literally starts with recruiters.
I think bravery. Be brave.
Definitely.
It's really hard being a recruiter.
Like,
genuinely. I know many of the people here will be going, really? But it is. It's really tough. And
it's high pressure. It's a high pressure role.
It's a high pressure role. Most of what we do leads to nowhere. Because you can't place everybody that you talk to for a job.
Someone at some point.
Even when you're
to tell people they didn't get the opportunity.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
but even when you do have a successful outcome for one person, there might be 3 that you have to say, well, look, you weren't the lucky one this time. So it is really tough. But I go back to the point, it requires a lot of bravery. It requires a lot of bravery to challenge a hiring manager who says, I only want somebody that CV reads like this. Because that's what my CV reads like, and I'm really good at my job, and so this person will, and everyone else in my team looks like this too. Now
this is a massive issue that you're highlighting. People want to hire like themselves, and it's sort of breaking away from that to hire elsewhere. I think definitely within recruitment.
What would that look like specifically? If you could just give an example just for our listeners about what kind of things would people sort of look to match, or in sort of malpractice, I guess.
Maybe their years of experience sometimes, sort of around the same age, the same life experience, the same lived experience, because that's what they know. And sometimes people are afraid of going outside of that, I think. I don't know if you agree.
Yeah, completely. I think like attracts like. Affinity bias is a real thing. You know, I'm a Chelsea Football Club fan for want of my better team. You know,
it's very hot. Very hot topic right here.
So it's often a joke when hiring. Because after someone starts, then inevitably a football conversation comes up at some point to find out who they support, and But you're absolutely right. You know, I think the biggest one that I see is that culture fit. Which is an interesting one because I understand it. I understand that it's important to have people that enjoy working with people. Because that's kind of the inclusion that we're seeking, is that everybody gels and gets on well. And I think the fear around DE&I, one of the fears is that if we bring somebody in who's not like us,
are they going to unbalance that culture of the company?
Are we going to destabilise what we've worked hard to achieve here? But also, you know, what if we get it wrong? And then we end up going to a place that is not the outcome that we're seeking. So I agree with you completely. I think that it's part of that natural selection process during a recruitment campaign is to look for that which is familiar. And that's not wrong to do, but it does mean that you've got a background in this, and you went to that school as well, and you studied that and I studied that, so we start going familiarity equals positive. So I see it too.
Do you have like an opinion to add on this? Like, what do you feel like a recruiter needs to do within the D&I?
I think definitely also the bravery. I think it's really important to stand up if you are seeing unconscious bias around you as well. a lot of people want to get on with their peers at work, but I think it's so important to stand up and call it out if anything is being seen. Again, with the bravery, you need the buy-in of the SLT, the CEOs. You need to know you've got the company behind you if you are going to be challenging a client on their views and biases, definitely.
Yeah, I agree. Next question.
Cool, great. So I guess sort of before we kind of come to the end of the session, is just wanted to ask about sort of what role does a platform like Diversifying Agencies play in like your D&I journey and things? Obviously, this had to come up at some point.
Yeah, why are we informed?
So do feel free to tell us and everything. But no, it's fine.
I think it's really important because as recruitment agencies, we sort of the platform, the diverse platform is new to us. It's new to us. So it's great to work with people like yourselves to see where this underrepresented talent is. And to lead us and to show us the best ways to find people that way. I think it's really helpful. And also the training that you guys offer has been really helpful. And it's just another option for us to deliver to our consultants to learn some more. And our clients is helpful.
Because it goes back to I think the point that one of you made. Oh, it was you. What your clients are going to ask, what are you doing?
What are you doing? Yeah.
And then you can come out and say, well, our Diversifying
Loads of stuff.
Agencies give masterclasses and stuff.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
it already shows you've already got your foot on the journey and you're helping yourselves
100%.
get all of the skills and the training. And it's going to show that organisation like they're doing what they need to do. And I really want to work with these people. So it is very important for a platform like us to be out there to help you guys. There's some people that are still very clueless about DE&I and the journey, and some of them haven't even started yet. Some of them are halfway there. Some of them are flourishing. So it's like we come in and we try and help you pick up where you are, and it's important.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, that point is the most important. The challenge for recruiters is to engage. Engage with talent, engage with people. And it is really difficult to be all things to all people. Right? So platforms like Diversifying Agencies are really important because it's really clear about what the platform is. So absolutely we want to be involved because we want people to understand that this is something that is important to us as an organisation. It does allow for us to share that with our customers and our clients to say, look, we're making sure that you've got visibility or your roles have visibility in these places. But touching on the webinars aspect, the education piece is going to be constant and ongoing. Constant and ongoing. I've got biases. I know I do. I'm not ashamed to say that. I know I'm
Everyone
biased.
has them.
Even you're not ashamed.
Everyone internalized about people that might look like you.
Well,
it's the same.
Exactly
We all live in
that.
the system.
But I need to make decisions, and I can't make the decisions at the pace that I need to without some kind of bias. It doesn't make it right. But by having things like the webinars, I'm really looking forward to the one on intersectionality because for me, I'm like, wow, I've never even thought about that before. That's a whole nother layer to inclusion.
There's so much that we don't have lived experience in that we can only be learning about.
Exactly.
And so that's really important because if I need to go and have a conversation with an internal stakeholder or one of our customers, I need to be constantly learning. Because people are ultimately going to look at recruitment agencies as being a knowledge base for hiring practices. Whether it be within DE&I, whether it be specialist subject matter experts in the next technological tool. So we're going to need to constantly educate and learn to be able to understand and provide some of that insight and a consultative approach to our customers. So I think it's a great platform, and I think it's a really important one as well.
Definitely, I agree. You know how they say it takes a village to raise a child? I feel like it definitely takes a village for us to grow in recruitment agencies, in the industry, for us to grow, help each other out. We're helping you, you're helping your clients, you're helping get candidates, you're talking to candidates, you're helping them on that journey. It definitely takes a village for us to help each other and grow. If we can give you that material and that training, by all means, and you can pass on that knowledge to your colleagues, to your CEO, to your COO, even it can be personal as well. You can pass that information on to your family, to your friends. And like you said, I don't think we're never going to stop learning.
No.
Yeah.
Gen Z are showing us that now. Like, they're very different. I think I'm even Gen Z, the tip. But they're showing us a different world, and the world needs to change. And another generation is going to come along soon. And
Gen Alpha.
yeah, is that what they're called?
That was cool.
Oh my.
Wow.
And I
my.
love the confidence of this generation, and they
Yeah.
will come to interviews and they will ask about maternity policies, and I love
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
I love it. It's great.
But you know what? So before I even got this job, before I came to this industry, I was working actually in a job centre as an employment advisor, and that was a whole different world. That's when I first got a taste of recruitment. And I was looking to move on, and I was having a few interviews, and I was actually talking to one of our clients, and he said, I love the way you speak over the phone. You're so confident. Can I speak with you? Are you looking to get a new job? And I was just like, yes. Had a conversation with him. This is the first time
Oh, what
that I've ever asked,
What's coming?
what's your diversity like in your company?
Oh.
And it was over the phone, because we had like an informal conversation before the interview, and he went silent for a bit. And I felt awkward, because I was like, I've never had to ask that before. This is so different to me, because every business that I've gone into has been very diverse. I've never had to ask that question.
Right, yeah.
But because he said it was a small company, startup, I was like, oh, let me ask.
Yeah.
He said, oh, we're not very diverse, and we're a very small company. There's only 5 of us, and we are predominantly white, Caucasian. I said, okay, that's fine. What are you looking to do to build that, change that? He said, we've not got nothing in place at the moment. We haven't done anything. And he didn't really say how they were going to.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, I didn't say anything, but I already said no.
I think
I'm not going there.
that's a really important insight.
Yeah.
Because there'll be lots of organisations that truly will look around and say, like, that sounds like us too.
Yeah.
But how do we change?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know how to understand the lived experience of a working mum, because I'm not one.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Now I can see my wife's experience, and I can see colleagues' experiences, and I can relate somewhat to your experiences, but I can't share that experience.
No.
Yeah.
No.
And so the awkwardness then becomes, well, I would like to, but I don't know how to step from this side of the line to that side of the line to join you, because it's a collaborative journey. So I think that there's a lot of organisations and a lot of senior leaders that probably sit and are going to face more of those questions.
Yes.
Because you're absolutely right. This younger generation, or Gen Z, Gen what is it? Gen Alpha. There's an expectation there.
That sounds quite
Like,
scary. Alpha
I
as
know.
well.
Next one's
I know,
beta.
like, they're
Next
coming.
one's called beta.
I'm very scared.
Yeah, it's gone back around, because it was like Gen X, Gen Y, Gen Z, and now it's Alpha. So
Oh, wow.
yeah.
There we go.
Yeah.
So
Who made these names up?
Yeah.
So I think you're right. There's a lot that sit in that boat. And for any companies or business leaders that are sat there saying, well, look, we want to do something, but we don't know how.
Yeah. I'd rather you say that.
But talk to your recruitment partners. Ask them what they're doing. Ask them how they can support. Ask them if they know anyone that can support.
Yeah.
There are so many different organisations that can provide support and knowledge and insight.
Yeah.
And what you'll realise is that the bigger the diverse pool, the more innovation comes through. There are different ways of doing
There's
things.
so much data to support that, isn't there? That the more diverse the group of people, the better outcome.
The better the organisation.
Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
exactly.
I've seen those stats recently, but I can't remember off the top
No,
of my
I cannot. But there are stats.
There are.
There are definitely
Yeah.
stats.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
love the fact that you asked, like, outright.
I had to.
I love that.
I had to.
How did you feel though asking
Yeah,
that
yeah,
question?
I-
That's brave. That's
Yeah.
brave.
I
That
feel
is a
like-
brave
I
question.
think, honestly,
Yeah.
I think that's props to you for doing that.
because that has
Thanks.
probably stayed with them. and they realise that they need to do
because
something.
they lost that talent.
Yeah.
And so, they lost that.
Do you know what?
opportunity.
So I didn't decline over the phone, but I messaged him on LinkedIn and I said very politely, like, thank you so much for showing interest. Thank you for taking the time out of your busy evening, because it was late, to talk to me over the phone, but I'm going to happily decline. And it was just something that I felt like I needed to say to you, and blah, blah, blah. I didn't get a reply. He read it. I
Yeah.
can see that you can read it on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was it. I didn't get a reply.
But
So that made
you're
me
right, though.
think I made the right
You
decision.
definitely
Yeah.
make the
Yeah.
right choice.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely.
But you are right. That might be the catalyst for someone to go,
Yeah.
wow.
That definitely
Yeah.
stayed with him.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That definitely
Especially
stayed.
what it would have
Yeah.
been like for you in that environment. You know, if there's nothing in place.
Yeah.
It could. I mean, there's a variety of situations that could have come out of that.
Yeah.
But that's why I speak to clients a lot about their visibility, so their marketing, everything, get it out there. If you've got a large group of diverse workforce, show us, like talk about it, shout about it.
Exactly.
You have to shout.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, you have to.
Yeah. I always play the London Underground game with myself. And I'm like, right, how many East Asians on these adverts? None? Okay.
Yeah.
Goodbye.
I can never, you never ever see it.
It's representation.
Ever.
I work with a lot of engineering clients, and they want more women into the workforce.
Yeah.
So we're going into schools and colleges and universities and just
about it.
shouting about it.
Yeah.
We're speaking to women engineers, bringing them into the universities. I'm interviewing a lot of women engineers.
Yeah, that's good.
Nice.
And women quite high up in highways industry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's visibility. If girls can see it or anyone can see it, they can be it.
It's so rewarding and refreshing when you can see someone like you.
Yeah.
Exactly.
A woman,
Exactly.
a male, a white female, a black female,
Yeah.
a black male,
Someone queer,
Asian,
someone disabled,
queer, anyone. And when you see that, you feel like, yeah, I can belong
Yeah.
in this space.
That's
I can
true.
belong in this company.
That is true.
If there's
And
sorry. You
no, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. Seeing is believing.
Yeah.
And I guess that would counteract the, because I guess a lot of times we hear the women just aren't interested in science or women
No,
aren't
that's
interested in
wrong,
engineering.
yeah.
And you said that you've been to schools. I mean,
Yeah,
really there's a lot of
yes.
pool of interest from early stages.
It starts so young, especially with the engineering and tech sector and STEM for women. They need to be exposed to this early. That
Yeah, they
they
do.
can do
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, they do.
Well, come on, women in STEM. Woo. Things.
Okay, so we have barriers. And me and you've had a conversation about barriers and how do we break those barriers down. So what type of barriers do you think we are facing right now, and how are we gonna break those down?
So I think that, I think somebody mentioned it earlier. What is any of this? Best person always gets the job.
Yeah.
Don't talk to me about that noise. I'm not racist. I'm not sexist. I'm not this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Best person always gets the job.
Mm-hmm.
But it comes back to that point of, how do you know that you're seeing the best people? All right. So I'm a firm believer in outcomes.
Right.
Yeah. Bottom line, productivity, that net result, that's the determining factor on success for most businesses, most business execs. And so the grey area for what we talk about and what we're looking at is, how do I measure the difference without going down some pretty bad routes of trying to measure performance, right?
Yeah.
But, it's the same thing that I will always say, measure the outcomes. So, if you're looking to say, well, how can we, are we doing enough to engage with people with disabilities? Measure the outcomes. How many of your employees have asked for an accommodation or have one in place?
Yeah.
Because I might not want to walk into somebody's office and say, well, excuse me, I've got, I'm hard of hearing in my right ear.
Yeah.
But it might limit my ability to perform a role.
Yeah.
One of my children is neurodifferent. He's got ADHD.
Yeah.
And he's at an age where he's going to soon enter a workforce.
Yeah.
Right.
And trust me when I say that parenting is hard right now.
Yeah.
Because there's a part of me which is trying to help him become an adult that is going to fit into a traditional work environment.
Right.
But he's not going to function
Right.
or productively, or as productively as he could,
Right.
in that traditional work environment.
No, he
In the
won't.
current system, that is.
In my understanding.
Yeah.
And it goes back to my place in society now, where it's that, you know, with my 20-year career, I am in a place where my view of the working day and the practices of work is very different now to the people that are coming through to a post-COVID world.
Yeah.
So the only way to break the barriers down is really to understand the people that are affected by them,
Yeah.
and to genuinely believe that you can see an outcome that is beneficial for the organisation. We all know it's the right thing to do,
Yes.
but business is run on productivity generally. So focus on the outcomes. That would be what I say. And be brave, have those challenging conversations.
Yeah, I agree with the education side of things as well. I think the barriers are people are frightened of things they don't know. So I think exposing people to more diverse groups of people is going to help. Having conversations, getting together and talking to people. We have a lot of speakers in from lots of different backgrounds. So I can sort of talk to them just on a personal level. Tell me about your experience, your life, what issues you're facing, what barriers you're facing. So they can have them real, honest conversations.
Yeah.
I think that helps definitely.
I like that. Definitely.
I think-
Bringing in people.
Isn't it? They said that in that report. I remember I think it was last year, that workplaces was actually one of the big places that helped combat like homophobia, Islamophobia, and racism because people were forced to interact with each other.
Yeah.
They were forced to see, oh, what's that? Your lunch over there? Oh, that looks, that's you know, this is halal or whatever. Or oh, well, where are you going every day? Or are you going off to pray or whatever? Or you know, you have a same-sex partner or something. They were forced to see that, and then now we are working remotely. There isn't that same
that connection.
environment, that kind of you're not forced to be around those people. So, you know, from what you were just saying, that kind of reminded me of that, about how this world has to adapt and everything to getting that exposure of lived experience and things. I don't know if that's what you've been finding.
Yeah, no, I agree. And people are feeling more confident to be themselves, and they will be coming into the workplace as they're getting older. And so employers need to move now and do something now.
Absolutely.
Readying, like you said about your son, that's on an employer. An employer needs to make sure they accommodate. You want the best for your child, so you want to make sure that employers are ready.
But it's also about change. You know, there's a different world ahead of us. Goes back to your brain teaser earlier. You know, the journey that we're going on.
Wizard, if the listeners, I asked them all, everyone a very silly brain teaser earlier about if a wizard came to you with a book, would you, with everything ever written about you, ever said, a stranger, online, anything, would you read the book? Because if you read it, you have to read the whole thing.
Yeah, and I want to read it.
Yeah,
I
Tobi
also
wanted
wanna
to read it, Ella wanted to read it, and we both said no, didn't we?
Yes. Yeah.
So we would not be, you know, I wouldn't even dip into it.
But that's you know, that it resonates because our way of doing things and, you know, the hierarchies that we have in play, they work, but are they the best way for the world that's emerging?
Yeah.
So I think that there's, you know, you've always got to have one eye on the future. And if you ever listen to any podcasts, you'll often hear like entrepreneurs or business leaders talk about the fact that they like reverse mentoring. Because I'm this far on my journey that I'm out of touch now, or I feel out of touch. And reverse mentoring allows me to stay in touch.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because how we do things might not be the best way of doing things.
Yeah.
Our perception of what a good employee in a specific role looks like might not be what's available or what's the best talent anymore.
Yeah, people are much more aware of the belonging, how they feel, and their well-being in a company. So yeah, we need to change to cater people and make sure that their well-being is
Absolutely, yeah.
most important.
Yeah.
Because your son can definitely be accommodated.
Yeah,
He
yeah.
just needs to find that employer that's going to do it.
Yeah.
He needs to do some work too.
Yeah.
If he ever listens to this,
Come on, out there.
Daddy loves you, but Daddy's trying to help you.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's true. And there are many others that are like that.
Many.
Yeah, no, it's not as if son's the only person in the world.
Oh,
It's
no.
experience. It's so many. How many? Isn't it something like 1.3% of the population is neurodivergent, or something even more than that? I can't remember, but that's how many people in Britain.
So there's really sort of no excuses for employers
no
to not,
excuse.
It's not.
be prepared and be accommodating.
Yeah, and it's my learning as a parent is just that it's not that he can't do.
Yes.
It's just that the way that he does
He
it
just does it differently.
is different,
Yeah, just
right?
different, isn't it?
And so you're talking about processes.
Yeah.
It goes back to it, people and processes. The process of how we do the job.
Yeah.
If somebody else can get a positive outcome doing it in a different way, it still sits within the rules of the industry.
They've
Why
still
not?
reached the same outcome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is it on us as an organisation or as an industry to say, well, how can we change for the better of that collection of people?
Yeah.
Or do we keep forcing them out of industry?
Yeah, absolutely.
Or to try and conform to the ways that we work, and then they might have a lesser performance than they're capable of.
Yeah, I remember seeing a video actually that kind of reminds me of it. It was a video of an individual, and they are confirmed diagnosed with autism. They have sensory issues, and they were at work. They were explaining their experience, and so they wear like earbuds to sort of I guess like sort
The
of
noise, like
to prevent sort of like noise and kind of keep them focused and things. And their manager was like, "Oh, that's not very professional. Can you take out your earphones?" And they were like, "No, I'm not listening to music. It's just so that I can focus and block out sounds and I don't get overstimulated." And the manager kept repeating like, "I really don't think you should be wearing that in front of customers. That's not okay. Like, it looks like you're listening to music. You're not listening to me. Blah blah blah." And they were explaining, they were just getting frustrated about how they had to explain to them that this is not. I'm not listening to music. This is actually to help me to be productive and so that I can do my job well and things. And it was a very interesting video and things. I think that kind of speaks to what you were speaking about earlier about the sort of if people can't thrive in the current system, then they're just they'll come into these barriers, or they'll leave or whichever, and if they can still do the job perfectly fine.
Sometimes the outcomes might be greater.
I've seen some brilliant autistic people. They sound way more intelligent than I am, and I'm like, wow.
I mean, my son will.
Good.
I laugh. If there's a technical issue in my house,
He's on it.
don't ask me. Do not ask me.
Yeah.
But my son will take it apart and put it back together,
Yeah.
and it will be fixed.
Other things in their life is heightened. Do you get what I mean? It's
Yeah,
heightened.
yeah. We've all got gifts. We all have gifts.
I mean, there's a reason why autism, ADHD, dyslexia have survived. I mean, we're getting very to sort of sociological science, blah blah blah. But I think I saw that it was something about how. Like traditionally, there's the current theory is that people with ADHD, they were like really good at storing information in like when we lived in communities and tribes about sort of different forms, like communicating with other tribes, like what parts do we need to do, which scavenger group is out today and things. And people with dyslexia, like a lot of time they were like creative people.
Yeah, absolutely.
How can we come up with tools
As
and things?
recruiters, we just need to find the ways of tapping into those skills and make sure we are advertising in the right places to find people like this that have so much to bring to our workforce that may not be on standard job boards or
Absolutely.
look in the same way as everybody else looks for roles.
And understanding as well, or being brave enough to speak to a candidate and say, are there any accommodations that our client needs to be aware of? Because there's a fear around having those conversations with people. And I understand it. I completely understand it. But we're moving to a place where it's more and more necessary.
Yeah.
As long as we know that, like you said, the customers are equipped to be able to cater to and to, provide accommodations and to be accepting of, what's shared with us.
Yeah, because look, like the menopause thing is so big now.
Yeah, I was
so
saying
important.
it's so important.
We've also done our own conversation in our company.
Yeah, we had seminars on training on it.
Yeah.
It's so important.
It never used to be a thing.
It's not, and you can't expect maybe the people that don't go through the menopause in the business to understand because they won't. They won't. But the education again on that is so important. So many women leave the workforce at menopause age because it's just too much. It's so much, but it could be fixed. It could be easily helped with things like fans and taking regular breaks. Things, little tweaks that could make that person's experience such a different one, such a more positive one.
Crazy. And I think, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say because it can affect how you're thinking. It can affect your day a lot. So those little things in place, it can help massively with that person being able to get their work done. But
It's about access to information, isn't it? Because I think
Yeah.
a lot of time, a lot of things that we were being taught, that I was thinking, if someone had asked me on the street, oh, what do you know about menopause? I probably would have quoted the first 5 lines from Wikipedia.
Yeah.
Menopause is a system, blah, blah, blah,
Yeah.
blah. But then I think the things that I was like, whoa, actually, I didn't know that one.
I still don't know a lot.
There was things that they were saying about like lots of different things. And it's funny to think that, over half the people at work might be experiencing that sometimes.
Yes.
Might be,
Yeah.
and then they wouldn't even know that themselves.
No,
Yeah.
and
About
you're
their
trying
own
to sort of
bodies.
break down the taboo and stigma to ask.
Exactly,
So you
yeah.
want them to come to you and say, look, I'm going to be going through this. I need some assistance. I think women and people have just not been, and they've just been dropping out of the workforce, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So the whole part of inclusion is to make sure that you're continually improving, making people feel included in the workforce long term.
My wife does a lot of work in pre and postnatal fitness.
Okay.
Okay.
And so, part of that is looking at perimenopause. So I'm not going to claim that I know as much as she does, but she does share a bit. But it is, I think her biggest learn from it was she was just shocked at like how long this affects women for.
A long time.
And also
A long
just
time.
the sheer kind of lack of any kind of real significant education as a standard
Yeah.
around it.
Yeah.
And, obviously through speaking with her about it, I was like, wow, I didn't.
Didn't know nothing.
Yeah, because you don't really.
No,
It's
when-
really like happening in our workforces, and women are going through this,
Yeah.
and you're just none the
it's,
wiser.
it's silent, isn't it? Completely hidden.
Yeah, it was hidden for a very long time. Like the only little thing I knew is when my mum used to be like, I'm getting hot flashes. And I'm like,
What does that mean?
right?
Yeah.
Carry on.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Like taste change, like your taste can change, right?
Yeah.
And you suddenly like you can't, if you could take like spicy food before, you can't
Feeling
anymore, or smell different to you and things. It's
Yeah.
crazy,
Only
isn't
changes.
it? Yeah.
It's mad.
So do you have like ERSGs or pillars of diversity or like advocates for certain things in your organisation?
Yeah, we do. So we also have sort of a diversity group, and we look at advocate for different things. I will choose a topic of discussion. So as menopause came up, I was like, right, we're educating you all on menopause. This is what's going on at the moment. We just want to make sure that everybody has at least some idea of what people could be going through.
Yes.
Obviously, it's really important to be speaking to the senior leadership team as well, making sure they understand. So sort of similar.
It is, because you think about that. That's a topic that, like, if I sat and had some education, then I can go home and have a more informed conversation with my wife, with my mum, with my mother-in-law, whoever.
Yeah, it affects outside of work.
Yeah.
Exactly, yeah.
Do you have any? Do you have a daughter?
I've got 2 and I'm not looking at it. Yeah.
But like you.
I know.
Yeah,
they get-
I know.
You could, yeah.
You could.
I know, I will
Why
one
not?
day.
Well,
Yeah.
Start early 30s. And
Yeah.
it's
Let them know.
yeah, and things, and it's
It is. And I mean, but again, it goes back to that heart of it. If you know,
Yeah.
yeah.
it changes the way that people look at DE&I.
Yeah.
And it changes the environment that we all operate in.
Mm-hmm.
So, I think that's brings you full circle there, really, education.
Education is a big key part, and and you keep making it the word belonging and stuff, isn't it? I think that's definitely the buzzword of recruitment for the last
100%. It's really
2
important.
years.
It is.
Isn't it? Yeah, belonging.
But it truly is, because retention is just as important as attraction,
Yeah.
if not more
want
so
to
sometimes.
Yeah, people need to feel like they belong through the whole employment with the company, I think.
Absolutely. And that's, you get better results from people that feel like they belong.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Definitely.
I guess actually just before we finish, I'm kind of curious just about sort of individually for everyone is just a quick sort of ender question is about what kind of is there anything that you feel comfortable sharing about something that you kind of have been learning on your individual journeys, or some webinar or some kind of seminar that you kind of made you
Oh, I've got one.
Oh, there we are. So, that made you sit back and reflect. Oh, wow, I haven't thought about that before. If you're comfortable sharing it, Tobi, it sounds like you had one.
Okay, so coming into this company, I'm still very new here. I'm gonna be a year in the summer. Coming in,
I feel like you've been here longer.
oh, is it? That's
Yeah.
good. My eyes has opened up to the pronouns.
Yeah.
Big time. I am still learning. I still make I think I made a mistake yesterday. I'm still making mistakes, but I'm learning to be respectful of people's choices, what they want to be addressed as, and it's something that it's a different world for me. I said to my manager that it's gonna be hard. Please correct me if I make a mistake. I don't want to obviously hurt people's feelings at all. But I've come from a world where, from a black community as well. Yeah, it's different. I'm still learning it, and I was trying to teach my mum the other day. She was like, because my mum is a mental health support worker and she works with teenagers as well. And she was coming home and she was sharing her frustration. Like, I don't know. I made someone upset the other day. I don't know what this is. She's in her 50s. So you can already know where she's coming from. And I was trying to explain to her, and I found myself getting frustrated at her because like, that's how they want to be addressed. Do it then. Why are you like, oh, I don't know? And I'm even finding myself educating my whole family now, and it's something that I've learned. I'm still learning. Yeah. And it's a very broad subject that is probably going to be continuing for a very, very long time. And I don't know when people obviously going to be comfortable with it, but yeah, I'm baffling now, but I'm waffling. But yeah, that's something that I'm learning.
Yeah.
I think everyone's sort of learning at the same time.
Yeah.
I think here. And I think that's how we're going to get real change to happen, because I will educate my children on this and I'll speak to my family about this.
Ripple effect.
Yeah. And that's the only way it will. And educating the older generation, some that are going to be putting up barriers to learning new ways. But I think, we're really important in the change. And diversifying agencies and recruitment agencies are really important in the change.
Yes.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah, I don't know if you have any sort of personal anecdotes that you feel like comfortable to share about, sort of thoughts that you had around anything, or?
I think it's just people continuing to talk about their lived experience. I talk a lot about IVF, so I had IVF for my children, and it's only when I've started talking about it, I've learned that so many people have sort of been through the same. So I think humans like to make connections with other humans, so I think continue talking is so important.
Definitely.
I think that one's a very important. My mum had IVF. She won't mind me saying that. It didn't work out, but anyways. But yeah, I think that's a very important conversation as well, because especially at work, there's so many, when's this happening and things, and for
it's
many
not
people,
as natural for people. Like, it's not easy.
If any kind of conversation around fertility is a very socially acceptable conversation, but actually it can be very difficult for people to talk about that, especially at work. Just a casual comment can be very. I asked my mum about her experiences, and she said, it was horrible. People just say things, and then it's a bit of a stab, isn't it?
It's so common, IVF.
1 in 6 people have fertility.
Exactly.
And it's not that easy to get up and be like, okay, I'm gonna have a baby tomorrow.
Yeah.
Do you get what I mean? Like,
it's
not. It's not. But,
women are having babies later. There's so much that plays a part in it.
And we're very privileged that technology has come such a long way. Such a long way when it comes to IVF and fertility as well.
Exactly.
We're very privileged.
But there's still barriers as well, because many same-sex couples can't get IVF.
The cost.
The cost, and some county. It's dependent on your county, isn't it? It's very, very crazy. That blew my mom explained that to me. I was like, what? Like, she was saying to me,
they
like,
call it like a postcode lottery. If you're in certain districts,
so
you can get
crazy.
IVF on the NHS, but
you get two. My mum did it in the 90s. You got two in her one in Oxfordshire. You got two. No, you got one round. But her friend in in Northamptonshire, they get 2 rounds.
Yeah, people move to get
IVF.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Wow, I did not know that.
No.
That's crazy, isn't it?
I did not know that
That's
at
just
that's
someone's
you
life.
learn something new every day.
Education.
It is, and it's just talking. It's
Yeah.
people talking, and I think that's important.
Isn't it? Yeah.
So I think that, do you know what the biggest learning insight for me is? Understanding the shame that people feel when they miss something or get it wrong. So, my role in the company, one of my responsibilities is putting together a DE&I newsletter that goes out monthly.
Okay.
And the weight of the responsibility, because I'm just conscious that I don't want to miss any groups or communities or events or even religious holidays that I'm unaware of. And then when somebody does come to you to say, hey, you haven't spoken about this. That pinprick of shame that you felt, it gave me a big insight into what it must feel like to be, part of the dominant group. So in that example that you gave about, speaking to that company, the shame that person may or may not have felt, it was eye-opening for me, and it taught me a few things about, how to handle some of those difficult conversations or situations. I often get asked, where are you from? Not to leverage any of those conversations, right?
Where are you really from?
Yeah.
Where are your parents from?
Yeah. And so, like, I never reacted well to that.
It's tough. It's tough.
But what I learnt is that, sometimes people are genuinely positively curious.
Yes. Yeah.
I don't present as I'm not obvious as to like where I might be ethnically from. My surname is Irish. So it just adds to the confusion.
Yeah.
But for many years, I would be like, here we go. Another conversation about what can you say in front of me without offending me.
I think do you find that's more generational? Because I haven't lived that experience at all. And I would never dream of, when speaking to someone, going, where are you from? Where are your parents from? I wouldn't dream of.
It is more generational. It's more common, but it still occurs. I think it's what is it that I perceive that you're trying to elicit from me? It's challenging.
I suppose if you believe someone's got good intent, it's different.
Yeah.
It depends who's asking as well, because the most I've ever been asked that question is by people in the same group as me. They're trying to, are you the same as me? I'm trying to tell, like, which one are you? Are you me or are you someone else?
So I would always respond like, well, where do you think I'm from?
I like that.
And then
you got some really dumb responses.
I've had many. Many places where I go, really? But, what I realised was, when the shoe was on the other foot, it's shame that you feel.
Yeah.
And that's why people need to be brave, because I'm probably going to enter into a space that unintentionally is going to leave me feeling ashamed that I've got something wrong or made a mistake.
Like you said about the pronouns.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so that for me was the biggest learn, that I need to kind of accept it, that you've made a mistake, but I shouldn't be ashamed, because I'm not. That's not the intention.
No.
But yeah, that's I think on my journey, that's been my biggest learn.
Yeah.
I love that.
I like that.
I love that. Brilliant. Oh no, I have to think of one. Is it?
Oh yes. No, you think of time. Think of one. You've got time.
I actually didn't think of one because I was so busy listening to all of yours. That was silly, wasn't it? Whoops. I didn't think of one.
But you've been in the company quite a long time, isn't it? So you've experienced a lot. So it'd be hard to pinpoint.
Yeah, I guess there's been so many thoughts, and I think, to be honest, I think just things even around, actually, I actually like what you said about the, where you're from, and sort of, there definitely is always that kind of illicit kind of hesitation with that question and things. But I think that, like you said, it is about kind of discerning, I guess, the kind of intention and sort of reactions and things. And I think that, especially in professional environments, it's also about kind of, thinking about it in sort of most positive way, instead of thinking, maybe this person doesn't know, or blah, 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 or something like that.
Let me give it the benefit of the doubt.
That's what I'm trying to say, exactly.
So I shifted to a place of saying, do you want to know where I live, or are you asking me what my ethnicity is?
Yeah.
I see, yeah.
Just get straight to the point.
Yeah.
Do you want to know?
Because I'll happily share both.
Yeah.
I'll happily share both. But it was, as I say, it took me to move to a place of saying, okay, you're curious, let me help you understand, rather than a place of suspicion.
Yeah, I get you.
And it was feeling that shame for myself that allowed me to make my change in how I handle that question.
Like that.
So, I understand what you're saying.
Yeah, I think it's part of the journey, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think there's, at least for me anyway, in childhood, there's always sort of like illicit anger in that question, like, are you just asking me this because I don't like you, things like that and stuff. But I think it's sort of, I guess, the sort of next stage, probably a few stages after that since childhood, but I guess it's sort of the sort of the controlling of the conversation and sort of taking it back in the reins and thinking, actually, what is being said here, what's the intention, blah, 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 and things like that. So yeah, I guess we've come to the end of the podcast today.
Really good conversation.
Yeah, loved
thank
the
you so much.
Really
for
enjoyed that,
coming.
thank you.
It went really naturally, didn't it?
Yeah.
I loved it. It went by very quick, didn't it?
Yeah.
Very good.
Very good.
Yeah, so I guess just for our listeners out there, you know, where can people find you? Are there any kind of things that you can share, or just sort of, you know, with our listeners about, you know, where they can find you, or any kind of websites or anything?
Obviously, Diversifying Agencies.
Yeah, I was just about to say, pop over to Diversifying Agencies.
Yeah.
I'm Ella from Carrington West. I can be found on LinkedIn.
I'm Paul McGuinness from Staffing 360 Solutions, and I can be found on LinkedIn as well.
Perfect. That's
Perfect timing.
Yeah, I guess that was the lever.
But yeah, if you go over to Diversifying Agencies, at the top of the page, you'll see a word that says agencies, and you'll find a list of all our agencies on there already, and you can find Carrington West and Staffing 360 on there, and they have amazing profiles that shows everything that they do for diversity and inclusion. And at the bottom, you'll find their jobs. So please go over there and just have a browse.
And if any companies want to embark on a more proactive journey within DE&I, you know, I'm more than happy. I'm sure Ella's probably more than happy to connect, just to share ideas and share, you know, our version of best practice.
Yeah.
So, you know, reach out, engage.
Love that. Thank you, Tobi.
Thank you, Naomi.
You've been a fantastic host.
Oh,
Thanks so
you.
much for all this.
We need to do this again. Thank you.
Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this episode and would like to support this podcast, please share it with others and leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. Keep up to date with what we do at Diversifying Group at diversifying.com, or follow us on social media at Diversifying Group. See you next time.